Okay, so if you heard that voice in the background, then it's official. We're starting this class at a time, at least when I'm leading the class, that it's a super gray, rainy, dark day, perfect for doing some um, creating some intimacy with your inner experience. And I don't know about you, but for me, I feel a little more permission to do that when the weather is not so great. We're so used to doing, being in that doing mode, always taking a step forward, and so it can be really hard to slow down and just be. So here we are. For whatever reason that you're tuning in or that you're here right now live, and it's worked out for you to be here. See if you can open up to having some of the permission as well. Because the challenge of a practice like this, that is not like the faster moving flow class, is that you will get very tight with your mental and emotional activity. So don't feel like you're doing anything wrong if you are aware of a lot of agitation, things like boredom and the inner critic. All tools and skills that we have and we need, that part of the brain um, that protects us, that is always scanning for threat. So the practice is to notice that these things are here, maybe to find an anchor and use body and breath to come back and be gentle and kind with that. So for the practice, this is a good one to have some pillows for. I've got a couple of pillows. If you have more, that's even better. And I like to use a towel or a blanket that I can use to fold up a couple times for knees or to sit on today, just so that we have something ready. If you have that, I'm folding it up a couple of times. It's still pretty flat. It's more like a tube. When we get to using this, which will be early in the practice, it's going to come, let's see if I can do this. How flexible am I this morning? Like a band-aid behind the shoulder blades. But that can just be something that's off to the side. And if you don't have exactly that, then that's okay. Um, so setting that aside for a moment. Also, if you have a couple of couch pillows around, that'll be, you might want to use that early in the practice as well. But to begin, as I mentioned, we're so used to doing and spinning out into thinking about agendas for future, that it can help to uh, do a progressive relaxation to start with, where we're engaging muscles and then relaxing them. So we can be just resting on our backs. Don't need anything there. It's coming to, you can have the eyes open actually to start with. Let your legs lengthen out long if that's okay, just for this exercise. I'm calling it an exercise. This is an entry point. So just pause to register that your body is here. Don't need to try to align things. And so you can be aware of some imbalance, some discomfort, just in a general way, taking in your entire body as it comes to rest. And you may be bringing lots of mental activity with it, and that's just fine. And so the eyes are open. Start to nod the chin over to one side so that you see what's over there, literally looking at what is on that side of your room. And then rock the head back to center and nod the chin over to the other side and see what's over there. Taking what's in your field of vision into your perspective. Things we take for granted. Let your eyes stay open as you do that another time. You might see what's on the ceiling as you come through, and then again over towards one side. Maybe you see, move your eyes around a little bit here without moving your head and see what else is around that you might have missed the first time. Some dust, some cobwebs, come back through center, and once more over to the second side, moving the eyes around, up and down, and back through center. You can close your eyes now if that's comfortable and start to engage the right toes towards the face. So feel the muscles of the right ankle start to flex and hug the muscles of the right calf and shin to the bone around the knee. Feel the upper leg also start to contract, the hamstring and the quad. That leg might even lift up a little bit if you can really squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Other parts of the body may be coming on board here. Just try to keep it in that leg, just floating a little bit. See if you can even breathe in here. It's hard to breathe when we're stressed. This is a bit of active stress, and then active release. Let that leg go. Notice the difference between the right and the left leg. This is a practice of mindfulness, taking in your body now. Let's go to the left leg. So draw the toes towards the face. Start that process of contracting the ankle, the calf, around the knee, the upper thigh, quad, the hamstring. Squeeze and see if the heel might lift up a little bit. It's quite a bit of work to have the entire leg float up. You have to engage your core a bit. And then drop it. Just let the toes fall away from center and check in both right and left side of your body now, the lower body. Take a few deeper breaths, releasing some heat with the mouth open. And let's squeeze the right hand. Give it a squeeze. You can tuck your thumb underneath your fingers and start the same process of contracting the muscles around the wrist, the forearm, around the elbow, the upper arm. Let that arm come off the ground a little bit. Squeeze, squeeze, and hold it there. Breathe. Unfurl the fingers, float the arm back down, just let it flop. Noticing the right arm resting on the ground. Make a fist with your left hand, tuck the thumb in. Squeeze and contract the muscles of the wrist. And curl your hand a little towards yourself. Tighten around the forearm, the elbow, the upper arm. Squeeze and hold. Float that arm up. And then drop it. Big exhale. Start to bring your awareness to your pelvis, that bony shell that holds all of the reproductive organs, your flushing out organs. Contract the buttocks. Squeeze and draw the belly in a little bit here. Send the ribs down towards the pelvis and see if the pelvis can get a little bit light, and move the back of your hips off the floor any amount, or just get lighter there. Squeeze, squeeze. And release again. All those big muscles around the glutes that help us to support the entire weight of the torso. Let's shrug the shoulders up to the ears now. You feel like you're in a Frankenstein posture, your earlobes and your shoulders coming to meet there. And feel that contraction. Notice how the rest of the body is reacting. Notice what this feels like in your emotional body as well, to be in this shape, because this is a shape that we get into unconsciously quite a lot. Try to take a breath there. And then release and soften. You might slide the shoulder blades underneath yourself a little bit to add some more length to the neck and let that go. Notice how this feels in your emotional body. Let's do one more thing now. Let's bring all of the muscles of the face to center. So squeeze your eyes, your nose, your lips, all of those areas towards each other. Feel all the lines across your forehead and around your cheekbones, your jaw. Some of those muscles that we engage when we're trying to really concentrate and focus, that can give us that angry look. Squeeze that. And then let it go. Feel the release, maybe some relief. Smooth the muscles of the forehead out. Now notice your entire body as it is. Just a couple of minutes into the practice, having had that bit of activity, the doing, the contraction. To see if it's a little more available to you to just be here. It's okay for the mind to be super active as well. We're not trying to stop thinking. That would be impossible. Just to have a better relationship with it. The thoughts are coming and going. They're not us. Your hands might be open at the sides, or you can rest your hands on your lower abdomen to connect with the breath. There's no particular breath or need to try to keep up with anything, just the in and out. And if the breath is something that's comfortable for you to use as an anchor, then this might be something for you to come back to during the class when you do notice that there's reactivity or a pull out into the future. It's the sensations of breath in the body. But you might also use another one of your senses. It could be hearing, field of hearing. Sounds that are happening are always just happening in the present. Or could be coming back to some physical part of the body where you're feeling sensation as we move through some postures. Let's bring the knees in towards the chest now, and your eyes can be open or closed. Let your knees hug in and have a little bit of space between your knees so that your heels are heavy and your hands can be resting on your shins or underneath your thighs so that the legs don't have to do a lot of work here. Let's rock it over to one side and then through center and over to the other side. It'll be a small movement. First time today, perhaps, to feel into your lower back and offer some massage. If you feel like that movement can be a bigger, wider swing of your hips, then you might be coming all the way over to one side, to one elbow, and then giving a little press back up through center. Let's do a couple more rocks. Good, and then come back through center. Let's bring the knees towards each other. Hands can be on tops of the knees, and then open the knees wide. Stirring the thigh bones, knees come in. And then the tailbone heavy and the knees move apart. Internal rotation a little bit. You can let your feet kind of fall out as the knees move away, and then open the knees. The heels will come closer together. Something like that. Opening and closing. Let's try the other direction. Knees wide and then together. Just exploring the sensations that are in your pelvis and hips, the attachment points right now. Let's bring the feet to the floor. They could be a little bit wider than hips distance apart and have your knees fall into touch. Let your arms move away from the body in an A-frame, or you can take a cactus shape with the palms facing the ceiling, elbows in line with the shoulders. Start to let the left knee open up and the right knee follow to fall in. If you need to bring your knees a little closer together, we don't want to feel our deepest stretch or some sensation of over pulling in the right hip flexor psoas. So if it's a little too much, or if you feel strain in the low back, wiggle the knees a little closer together. Or you can take your feet comfortably wide apart. Feel your right knee tracking down towards the bottom end of your mat. You want to maintain a bit of core here, drawing the belly back and up. Nodding the chin over the right shoulder if that is interesting for your neck, and taking 3 breaths here. See if you can follow the rise and fall of each side of the breath. You might quickly find yourself engaged with some kind of a story, and that's okay. Start over. Just one breath, one half breath at a time. Let's bring the right knee up now. The left knee will follow. Let's take the knees into center again. Maybe reset your feet. Feel some symmetry across the back of the hips. From there, the right knee can start to open up to the side, come to the edge of your right foot, baby toe edge, and the big toe edge of your left foot. Might feel very different on the second side. One side might feel more comfortable than the other. And you can choose how wide apart your knees are here. Letting your tailbone reach long to the bottom end of your mat and nodding your chin over to the left. Shoulders heavy on the ground. If it's comfortable, the eyes can be closed, or you can just have a little opening to let in some light as you take 3 breaths here. Inflating and releasing some blood flow through the descending colon on the left side. Head comes back to center, knees come back to center. And this time, let's bring the knees in towards the chest and give them a squeeze in pretty close together. You can keep your tailbone on the mat so we're not doing a big round in the lower back. Just breathing here helps to massage those internal organs that help to keep our systems healthy. The kidneys, the adrenals, the digestive organs. And then the feet can come to the floor. And slide the right leg long and the left leg long. Let the arms float behind for a big stretch out. Let's try cradling the head with the hands. So picking up the head a little bit and then coming to rest the head with the elbows wide, if that's comfortable, just like you're on the beach. And so we're supporting our head here, and we'll start to lift it a fraction of an inch off the floor and start to walk it a little to the right. You can walk your shoulders to the right as well to come into a little bit of an arc in the upper body. We'll do this in stages. So we're starting to open up the gills more underneath the arm on the left side. You could slide your right foot a little right as well. And the left foot could come towards meeting it. We're not going for our biggest arc, for sure. You could experiment with crossing the left ankle over the right ankle. And if it's comfortable, to continue to cradle the head here with Both elbows relax towards the floor, or you could release your head to the floor and let your arms be in a more relaxed, open cactus shape. Lots of options. You could take the right wrist to catch the left forearm, left wrist. We're not trying to get to any destination, but just to allow the breath to travel through this whole left side. Resting in the shape and opening up the invitation for everything that's here to be okay, to be welcome to be here. Using the anchor of the breath, sensations in the body, or things that might be in your field of hearing to keep you in the present. And slowly start to bring the head and shoulders back to center, and then walk the legs back to center too. Even things out a bit. You can jiggle the hips, give it a shake, or bounce the legs. And then slide the hands behind the head again. Let the elbows relax wide. Feet can be floppy. Walk your head and shoulders, wiggle your elbows, your upper back, and open up into a C curve. So you just feel a yawn underneath your right armpit. And then you might also slide the right foot a little closer to the left. They don't have to come together, and they could for sure just be down the bottom end of your mat. You might investigate crossing the right ankle above the left ankle. And then any position with the arms, just the way they are, or cactus, or take a hold of the right wrist with the left hand, nodding your chin slightly down in whatever way is comfortable for your neck as you take 3 breaths here. Maybe the focus lasts just for 1/2 of a breath cycle. That's enough. We can return and start whenever we notice that we're engaged in something else. Just this 1/2 breath cycle. Uncrossing the legs, sliding back to center with the head. One more time, hold the head there. Squeeze the elbows towards the ears, so not using the neck muscles, but just picking up the head with the strength of the arms and looking towards the feet and rocking a little bit left and right. Then come back down. Just going to shift to one side for a moment to bring those props in. So if you had that blanket or towel that you have made into a tube-like shape or a flat Band-Aid, up towards the top of your mat. Now you might need a little more lift for your head. Not necessarily. I'm keeping my pillows down near my legs, one on either side of the mat to start with. I'll just quickly demonstrate to start. Tucking the tailbone and laying down so that you have some support, coming to about where the heart rate monitor or the bra line would be. And you can hold your head and bring it back to rest. If you feel like you're really falling back with your head and that's not comfortable, then you could roll up the bottom of your mat. Different ways to give your head a boost, a little bit of height. So you may have to adjust. You can bring, of course, in another pillow for your head. I'm using the pillows in my situation down underneath the thighs. They can be close together so the legs stretch out long. Or you can take the soles of the feet together and have the support a little more towards the knees, a bit of height. So the hips are gently opening, not to your deepest. Take the time to set yourself up. It's important to be able to be at ease in these postures. They may feel like nothing much at first, but they can intensify and we don't want to feel any pain in the joints. If your lower back is tender, then having the knees open might not be the best. You might want just to have the legs long with support, or even have the feet wide and the knees into touch. It's really soothing for the lower back. Palms can rest on the lungs somewhere, in the torso, or the arms can reach away in comfortable shape. So this is very challenging to be, again, come back to giving permission to be here. Helps to know that the benefits of being still are profound. The body is still, but there's a structure that's bringing some blood flow to the digestive organs, with the heart a little higher. Also taking us out of those rounded poses that we so naturally get into when we're upright and looking at our phones. The skills of concentration and mental focus, patience. These don't come naturally. They're skills developing through practice. So it's no sign of that anything is going wrong here. If there's some internal dialogue, some debate, just let your awareness gently come back to the body and the shape. Any of the senses of hearing or breath. The way the breath is rising and falling. If you notice any sharp pain in a particular joint, something to pay attention to back off, to adjust. If there's some discomfort, some frustration, something in the mental activity, something to note, but perhaps not to abandon that. Just to be curious and open. To use the anchor to return. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And watch the breath climbing the ladder. The pause at the top of the inhale. And the bottom of the exhale. Let's do 1 more. And empty it all out. Just be aware of the props that are here. You might use your hands to come down and bring your knees back together to touch if they were open. And pick up your head again with your hands and look towards your knees. And shift over to one side to take that lift out from underneath the back. And let's come all the way over to the left side. You can use that blanket now perhaps as a long pillow. And if you don't need it, that's fine as well. I'm going to take one of my pillows and squeeze it between my knees and try to line up the whole left side of the body so that it's facing the left. The knees as well, like they're sitting in a chair. The pillow between the knees just helps not to overstretch in the hip. Slide the left arm underneath and come to rest the left side of the head on the ground or on that surface, that because we're going to be rolling here, so you may not want to have a big cushy pillow there. If you use blocks, you can use those as well between the knees and the head. Just depends on what you've got in your space. So lying on the left side body and sliding the palms towards meeting. So it helps to square up the shoulder girdle. We'll do some stretch for the arms that will end up in some twisting for the spine, some revolving of the spine. I'm going to reach the right arm a little further forward. The right palm reaches past the left fingers. Tip of the nose rolls towards the floor. So we're going to be really loose in the head, neck, and shoulders. And then we'll start to bring that right arm up and open a wee bit. You can follow that with the movement of your neck and shoulders. So the chest is opening. And then close. I like to close on the exhale. Bring the palm back towards the left palm and reach it a little further. Let your head, nose roll towards the floor. And then open up the right arm again, starting to come a little more towards the back with your upper body, but squeeze the support between the knees so the hips don't move so much with this. They will move a bit. Rolling back on the exhale, and then wave it open on the inhale. Seeing what's in the shoulder here. Exhale, close it up, reach, reach, reach. And then inhale, open. You keep doing that for a bit. You may find the movement gets a little bit easier, or maybe you have an injury here and you're keeping a smaller range of movement. You could also sweep the right fingers around and behind your head so you start to have a little more of that open arc. Maybe all the way down towards the hip, just exploring the movement with that right arm, reaching forward, and then up and around. You can stop anywhere you like, reaching away on a diagonal or just into a cactus shape. Reaching the arm back on a diagonal and then into the cactus shape again. Anything goes here. You might change direction. Coming back across the top and then down to the hip. Seeing if one way of moving seems to make more sense for you. We'll start to come to stillness. So we're setting up. So if you feel like the head isn't quite right, you can adjust if you have a support underneath it. And tuck the left side of the rib cage a little more to the left. Soften the chest and open to the ceiling now. So just looking up if you can. Arms resting. They may be lower down towards the hips, especially if your right shoulder is tight and lifted. You can let your left hand rest on your right upper thigh. You might adjust your knees to be a little higher up, hugging towards the left elbow. The prop that you're using could also be underneath your shins or your feet. You might need some more height. Setting your body up just like you would a friend. All of this structure in which you are embodied energy. Giving it some support. If it's comfortable for your neck to look over the right shoulder. And then we get to just be here for a couple of minutes. Again, if you feel any sharp sort of pain, then you want to back it off, adjust the pose so that eases or come out of the posture. If you are having something really intense going on in the emotional field, you might want to give yourself a little bit more structure in terms of perhaps counting the length of each inhale, maybe to 3 or 4, and the length of each exhale, so that you give the mind something to do. You might just have some compassion for yourself, for whatever's going on. Some friendliness towards it might be easier to generate, that it's okay to feel this. Let's take another breath on this side. And slowly, you might just come onto your back, one leg at a time. See what it feels like to have the knees bent and be on your back with your arms resting at your sides. You might feel some imbalance. Knees can be bent or the legs can be long. One leg might feel longer than the other. Let's bring the knees to bend. Before we go to the second side, excuse me, let's cross the right ankle above the left knee and stretch out this right hip a little bit in a figure 4 shape. You can keep your head supported if you had a lift there and it feels okay. Let's rock the pelvis just a little bit without lifting it up, forward and back, forward and back. So keep your left foot on the floor and use your right hand to press your right thigh open. Tailbone to the floor, inhale. And exhale, low back presses down. 2 more rocks through the pelvis, tipping the pelvis forward on the inhale. Feeling some space under the low back, and then exhale. Move it. Tailbone reaching up, but back of the hips staying down. And releasing the right leg. Give it a few kicks and shake it towards the ceiling. Pretty quick, pretty loose. Anything that might be stuck there in the hip, big suitcase of tension, accumulating and holding all those treasures. Let that knee come in towards the chest, exhale, and bring that foot back to the floor. So you might bounce the hips a couple times, just feel like you're resetting the bones or windshield wiper the legs. And we'll go to the second side. I'm just shifting around on my mat so I can be different for the camera. I'm going to set it up so that now we're lying on the right side of the body. And we'll bring the pillow in between the thighs for a squeeze. Tucking the right shoulder underneath. Stretching it out quite a ways and finding what's comfortable for the right side of your head to be resting on. And start as if feeling that the lower body is sitting in a chair. So your heels are underneath your your knees relatively, or whatever's comfortable. Square the shoulders so that the palms are coming closer together. Start to reach the left fingers a little further forward and let your nose roll towards the floor. And then open up a small amount to start with. This is progressive, waving the left arm. The entire thoracic spine moving in some synchronicity as we roll back forward, nose to the floor. Reach the left fingertips, crawl them forward, and then open up across the sternum. Hips are moving a little bit. Keep squeezing the whatever's between your thighs, and then roll back and roll open. I like to use the breath to exhale and bring the palms back to start. And then inhale to fill the lungs and open up the heart. Whenever you like, you might change up the movement of that top arm, taking the fingertips around for a big loop above your head. They don't have to get anywhere or touch the floor. And you might pause somewhere over there. If there's something interesting, you can bring that arm into a cactus shape. And then reach it with the palm up towards the back on a diagonal. The back left corner of your space. You might do that a couple times. Hug the elbow in. And then reach it back. You can do the loop all the way down towards the left hip as you come back to be on your right side, and then moving around. You might go through that again or change directions. This is your laboratory. How's it feeling in the left shoulder and the ribs and the hip? When you've had enough of the moving, going to adjust so that the right side of the rib cage can walk it a little bit to the right. Stretch your right fingers. Lots of things can be going on here. You might have an injury, shoulder. You can rest your left arm just like a wing against your rib cage. Or if that's okay, to open up the left arm. Maybe your left shoulder is down. You can add the weight of your right hand along the left thigh. Even give a few lines of a press, massage the IT band on that side. With the eyes open and a soft gaze or closed, looking at the ceiling or looking over to the left side of your space. Make sure that you've got enough support between your knees or even underneath your shins instead, or your feet could be lifted. So many different ways that you can support yourself in this pose. And then we're coming to stillness, and even though we're still, there's an intensity to being in the way of breathing that has a bit of different pathway for the breath. If it's interesting to you, you could accentuate the breath and breathe with a little more intention in and out through the nose. Or just your natural breath and taking in the sensations of expansion. The waves of softening and releasing. So good for flushing out and for creating some space between the vertebrae. Good. Let's take 3 more breaths on this side. It's okay to notice impatience and hurry up and get on with it. These practices can help us off the mat as well to take some time maybe before we say something in a heated moment, just to take that one more breath. So we'll shift back to center. Level out the hips for a moment. Feel right and left side of the body. We'll do the glute stretch, so cross the left ankle above the right knee. It's like a figure four, little triangle between your thighs. Press your thighs away. Give some activation to your left heel or your left toes. Draw towards the left knee. Helps to protect if you have anything going on in that joint. Press the right foot to the floor. And again, let's just rock forward and back through the pelvis. So not a side to side movement today, just a forward and back, tilting the tailbone up and then tilting the tailbone down. Half breath for each movement. Release and bring that thigh in towards the chest for a squeeze. And then take the left leg and float it up and shake, shake, shake. Jiggle it out. A few more loose flings, just if there is something else that wants to let go in that hip. And then release that leg down for a moment. You might straighten the legs out. Let's bring the knees back in again for a squeeze. And place the feet on the floor. Let's come all the way over to one side. Either side, doesn't matter. This is the rescue pose. Just stay there for a moment, transitioning to sitting up. Pressing into the top hand to lift yourself up. And if you are able to take a cross-legged seat, you might boost yourself up on that towel or a couple of pillows so you can sit on a chair or your couch, doesn't matter. So that we can do a little bit more in the upper body and the neck. Sitting in a way that feels relaxed but noble as well. Palms resting in the lap, taking in the experience of sitting, at least for the first time in the practice, to have your body in this shape. We'll drop the right ear over to the right shoulder. Let's just take a look down over the right shoulder. Bring your right hand and slide it behind your neck on the left side. So reach the fingers to wherever you can. Keep that a bit of a press and a pull forward and down on a diagonal across your chest as you start to look out over the left shoulder. We're going to do that a few times. So look to the right, reach back with the right hand around the left side of your shoulder neck, and then press it down and across as you look over to the left. And once more like that. Just a nice massage and stretch out for the neck, looking to the left. And back to center with the head, release. Let's take the head over to the left now. And nod the chin down over the left shoulder. Just stay there for a moment. Notice if the spine starts to collapse. Just re-energize a bit. And bring the left hand now to hold the right shoulder, right side of the neck. You can just rest the palm there, so there's not a lot of work. Start to drag your left palm across your chest on a diagonal as you look over towards the right. And then look left and down as you reach back. And again, draw the palm across as you look to the right. Once more. Good, and chin to chest now, all the way around, going through a semicircle from left to right, nodding one ear over to one shoulder and then the other. If you feel like a bigger circle, then you're welcome to explore your range of movement there. We'll come back to center and take a moment, lean back and change the cross of your legs. If you're sitting cross-legged, otherwise just reset your sits bones. Bring your fingertips to the tops of the shoulders. Do a few circles, elbows in, and then elbows wide. So a lot of focus on the thoracic spine today. Squeezing elbows, so we're just paying a little more attention in this type of a class to spending more time in a particular area. And change direction. Good, reach the arms back. You can either just spin your palms towards the ceiling and squeeze between the shoulder blades, or clasp your hands back there and lift up through the breastbone for 3, 2, and 1. Shifting forward, coming to the hands and knees. You might use your blanket underneath your knees if your floor is hard or your knees need some more support. You could also have a book or a pillow block up for your head as well. I'm going to take it into a puppy pose. Just reach the arms forward. So just to improvise, I do have a pillow here. You could rest your palms on the pillow and let your forehead just drop in front. Keep your seat above your knees so we're not rounding and coming back into a child's pose yet. Or you could bring the pillow or whatever it is that you have up there in a little closer so that your elbows can land on it. And then come back, just a different stretch underneath the arms. Your forehead might be resting against whatever this support is. With fingertips pressing behind the back of your skull. You can draw the belly in a little bit to keep some widening in the lower back. Without any support underneath the arms is fine too. You can be more relaxed and just rest the forearms and the forehead to the floor. Let's take one more breath here. And exhale. Walk it back. If you like being right back on your heels for a child's pose, you could bring your knees closer together and let your arms rest down by where your shoulders kind of hang out around your ears. If you don't care to be on the shins though, you could be sitting. For a sitting version of that, having your arms underneath your thighs and your thighs pressing against your belly and your chin tucked in towards your chest. You could also just be lying down on your back with the knees in again. It's the same, just different perspectives on where the body is in space. Let's take 3 more breaths here. Good. So wherever you are, just come to sit for a moment and windshield wiper the legs out. I'm going to finish today with an inversion. If you are in a space that has a wall that you don't mind putting your legs up on, I can show you that. You can also use a chair. You can use your couch, your bed. The space that I'm in, you can see I have no furniture. So I'm folding up that blanket and I'm going to bring it close up to the wall. I'm going to hop my seat right up to the wall. So I'm sitting right next to the wall. And then kind of spin around onto the forearms, letting the legs float up. Takes a little bit to just find the right distance for your seat to be at the wall so that the legs can feel like they're completely not working. Or if your shins are draped over top of the couch so that it's supporting behind the thighs as well, behind the knees, that's awesome. Whatever shape that you've chosen to be in, or you could just be on your back with a rolled up blanket or pillow underneath the back of your pelvis, and your legs can float up with very little work that way as well. Arms can be resting at the sides, or if you find it helps to stay with your inner experience by having your hands on your body somewhere, you can do that. This is a posture that is helpful with so many things, bringing the blood flow back to the heart after all of the effects of gravity, of being upright. Most of our time during the day is spent in that shape, sitting or standing, walking. To calm the nervous system, to help with insomnia. The throat, the face. If you have a condition that would be prohibitive, glaucoma, or some digestive issues also don't do well with these inversions. You just have yourself in a traditional Shavasana shape. And of course, if you prefer just to be lying down flat out, that's great too. In terms of a time that we have here, we'll take another minute just to rest and digest. You might scan the face to see what could be holding here, if there's still some tension around the eyes, the jaw. Softening the crease between the eyebrows and those concentration lines across the forehead. The inversion helps with the complexion as well, plumping up the face. If you'd like to just disappear here and finish your practice, have a longer rest, please do that. If you're ready to close out and moving on with the rest of your day, evening, then just be aware if you have the legs up. You might open your eyes and see what is in your space again, nodding the head left and right. You can slowly bring the legs down, maybe a knee squeeze. You can wiggle yourself away from the wall if you're there. Open and closing the jaw, stretch if you feel like it. Coming back to the rescue pose on one side, resting your head on your arm or pillow. Then pressing up to sit. And sitting again in that comfortable manner. Letting the hands rest in the lap or meeting the hands at the heart center, nodding the chin in for a moment, really intentionally to give yourself some thanks for showing up to be with your inner experience. And also to acknowledge others that are doing the same and having some shade of similar, our collective support for each other here at the Boulevard Club. Looking forward to seeing you in person soon. Thanks for your time. Namaste. I'm just going to stop the recording so the little lady will come back.